so many autistic people are bloody brilliant actors. I'm an asset to your set. And if I need like a timeout every so often, like take it.
Yeah.
I love that.
And the Audience Choice Award for Best Actress goes to Chloe Hayden.
Yes, oh my God, in the same category as Margot Robbie and Rebel Wilson? What the heck? I've masked my entire life as well. I've put on a face, I've pretended in order to exist. So I guess when I realized that I could play pretend as a job, I was like, I'm already doing this for free. Let's give it a go.
Number one show globally, Netflix.
Scene 48, erotic erect emus, take 1.
Literally the day after it came out, I went into Melbourne and I got mobbed to the point where police officers had to come. Hi, I'm Chloe Hayden. I'm an actor, I'm an author, I'm a disability rights advocate, and I'm also autistic. Hello.
Thank you so much for coming on. I want to start by saying I really enjoyed the first time that we met. Do you remember where that was?
We've met so many times. I was literally thinking about it on the way here today. I was like, I don't remember the first time I met you.
I remember.
Well,
the one where we properly first connected was in the lobby of the hotel in Sydney at Ace.
Oh my God.
And you came up.
Yes.
And you came up with energy like this. And I was like, who's this
do you know
woman?
what? I was freaking out, dude. I was freaking out. Do you know what? We were in this hotel. We were doing press for Heartbreak the next day, and I saw you, and I was like, "Oh my God, that's Dylan Alcott!" And like, I was telling all my friends about it. I was like, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God!" And my friends were like, just go up to him. I'm like, no, that's so embarrassing. Like, he's in his private time. Like, he's doing his thing. I was like, I can't do it. And then Chica, one of the other cast members, she's like, for God's sake, I'll do it. So she drags me up and she's like, this is my mate, Chloe. She's a big fan of you. And I was like, hi, my publisher sent you my book.
You were. And from like, you were nervous and stuff. And we talked for like 5 minutes. And by the end, you were like this, up and about. And I was like, legit, like, who the F was that woman? She's a legend. And then obviously Heartbreak came out and I'm like, that's Chloe. So I'm glad we got that because it meant a lot to me when we first met as well.
Oh, that's so good because I was freaking out. I literally didn't sleep that night because you know when you like have an interaction and you just like lie awake going like thinking of all the things that you did silly. That's what I did that night.
How was I standing? Was I standing
okay?
Yeah.
Did I say something weird? Where was I looking? What was I doing? It was weird. Yeah.
Lesson to anyone listening. If you see someone you want to go say hi to, go say hi to them.
Do
you know why? Start of a beautiful friendship, wasn't it?
Yes.
Right? If you didn't come up that day, I would have seen you at some awards and we would have been nervous and we wouldn't have said hi. But now when we do, because we are friends, so there you go.
Chloe, can I start off by saying, because I want to get it right for the whole time. Now, I learned from our great friend Prue Stevenson that there are like different ways to describe autistic people,
neurodiversion,
neurodiverse with autism. What's your preference?
I'm neurodivergent, and I also say is autistic.
Okay. Is autistic. Cool.
Okay,
I'm going to write that one down. And that was a diagnosis at the age of 13.
Yes.
Sitting across from us right now, 25.
Yes.
Nearly half your life knowing that you are autistic or is autistic.
That you is autistic.
I want to get it right. I don't want to make...
Hey, you is autistic.
That you is autistic.
You is paraplegic
over there. Since 13 to 25, what's the journey been like for you?
An absolute roller coaster, man. It's been so crazy. When I got my diagnosis, a lot of people get the diagnosis kind of going in with the suspicions that they might be autistic or, you know, that they might be neurodivergent. That wasn't the case for me. We went in with the suspicion that I had a brain injury from falling off my horse too many times, which ended up not being the case. And I went to a psychologist's office and after 6 weeks got my autism diagnosis, and I had never heard of the word before. And my mum, her only understanding of the word was Rain Man and What's Eating Gilbert Grape and all of these quite poor media-based stereotypes. So initially it was a very scary thing. And, you know, I went home and I Googled it, and the only thing I found were these horrifying articles and these so-called support groups that pretended to support us but really were trying to find cures and ways to get rid of autistic people. So going from there to where I am now has been a huge roller coaster.
Did it explain a lot in the first 13 years? So when you were young, did you kind of feel like something was different yet couldn't really put your finger on it?
Yeah, absolutely. From day one, like since I gained knowledge of being a human being, I was like, I don't feel like I belong with everyone. And I knew it from as young as probably 2. I remember going, I'm not like other people. I just never knew what the label for that actually was. So once we actually discovered what autism actually was, it was such a light bulb moment and such an, okay. Because I always thought I was from an alien planet. I was like, I'm not supposed to be here. I'm a glitch in the system. And then I found out, okay, not only is there a reason for it, there are millions of other people who are exactly like me.
Yeah.
When you, at 13, found out that it was autism, was that, knowing that feeling that way growing up and knowing that there was something different, was it fear? Was it like finally like a weight off your shoulders that you had something that at least kind of led you towards something, if that made sense?
There was a lot of emotions all at once. Initially it was like, oh, cool, okay, there's a word for it. And then I, got home and Googled it and found out that word had very, very negative connotations. And then it turned into fear and confusion and sadness. And now it's something I'm so proud of.
Love it.
How was that journey for you to become proud?
Oh, pretty hectic. I grew up not having any representation. I had never seen anyone else that was autistic. It certainly wasn't a word that people knew about, and certainly wasn't something that people knew about in any form of a positive light. And I grew up in a very, very tiny country town where unless you were like a 40 to 50-year-old cis het white farmer, you weren't normal,
It's tough for a lot of different disabilities in the country as well because of not just representation, but the work out there and things like that, no matter what it is.
Yeah, 100%. So, it was definitely a massive journey and took a long time. And it wasn't until I found a community or built a community online that I realised, there's actually so many more people out there just like me.
That's a throwaway comment. I built a community. You legit built a community, right? And so you started a blog in 2015 around this?
Yeah, so after seeing all of these articles and seeing nothing but this negative understanding of being autistic, I started writing these anonymous blog posts. And I wasn't doing it to build a community. I wasn't doing it, to be inspirational or anything. I literally was doing it because I was terrified and thought I was alone and thought that I was like this alien that came from this other planet. And so I did it as a kid who was screaming to the universe for one more person who was like me, and ended up finding millions and finding so many people who, just like me, had never seen themselves represented before and had never found a community. And I've never been the sort of person to kind of sit still and stay quiet. So I kind of realized, okay, well, if no one else is doing it, then I suppose it's my job to.
Yeah, finding a community online, did you find that you felt most comfortable in that online community that you had built rather than being out in public? I mean, we grew up in a similar area, the country town, and especially a lack of awareness or lack of representation. Did you find, because you moved 8 schools in 10 years, did you find that, because most people find their community or their friendship groups that for a long time through school, you were kind of more connected to your online community than you were finding in the real world? Yeah,
absolutely. I think a lot of us have quite a poor understanding of, I guess, socializing and friendship as a whole concept, I think. I couldn't make any friends at school. Every single day at school, I was either being punched up or I was hiding in the bathrooms to avoid being punched up. So creating these social circles in real life just wasn't an option for me. And online, I was able to be the version of Chloe that I wanted to be. I didn't have all of these negative connotations attached to me and associated with me. And also there was the social rules that exist in a physical social network don't exist online. I didn't have to make eye contact. You don't have to go, was that sarcasm or not? There's emojis for that. There's all these different things of socializing online that make it so much easier than, and again, if I don't want to talk to someone, I just log off.
Yeah.
It makes it so much easier. And I think building that community online is how both myself and how so many autistic people and a lot of people just of marginalised communities, period, are able to interact because we're able to talk to so many more people that are part of our communities that we can't find, especially when you live in small country towns.
Yeah. Just shits me so much when I hear stories about school, because we still do 0 minutes of disability education at school. So if your classmates had done 1 hour once a year about disability, of which autism was talked about, they'd be like, I kind of get Chloe a bit more. I'm not going to do that. You know what I mean? I get goosebumps thinking about it.
Yeah, we do a bomb exercise once a year, so you know which oval to go to in case someone threatens to bomb the school. We spend 3 hours sitting on an oval going, can we go back to class yet? Yeah, we don't do anything for disability.
What role would have that play? Because I know you're an advocate, especially for young people with disability, and it still happens today to a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think having that education in the schooling system it would have changed everything. I started getting homeschooled in year 8 because my psychologist literally told my parents, if you do not homeschool your daughter today, you will not have a daughter anymore. And it's because of an education system that refuses to support anyone that doesn't fit into this tiny box of normality that we've decided.
Yeah, it's getting a bit better. There's a thirst for it, but it's got to happen quicker. Like, how many... I got bullied, didn't want to live anymore. You got bullied, didn't want to live anymore. Like, it's like, how many more stories, not just from people of, with profile, but just everybody,
Yeah.
It's crazy to think. So you started the blog. You've also, we got so much to get through, so we might as well just crack into it. You're an author as well. So you wrote the book, Different Not Less. Did the blog posts form part of the book, or was that a fresh book, if that makes sense?
Yeah, my book is definitely part biography and part self-help.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what my blog posts have been. So obviously there's a lot more in-depth than what my blog posts were, but it's essentially, the blog posts were essentially building blocks to creating that book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you, how does the response, because the book's been going really well, how does that make you feel that there is like an actual hard copy Bible that's changing people's lives around this?
It's very surreal. It's very crazy. The first time I saw it was at the Sydney airport. It was like the night of the release, and we'd been doing Heartbreak press all day, so I hadn't been able to go to any bookshops or anything, and I literally just went into this newsagent's, like this like ratty little newsagent's in Sydney airport, and my book was just like front and center.
That's sick.
And I literally like broke down sobbing, and everyone was like, what, is she okay? Like, what's going on? And it's surreal. Like, I've been on like trains and seen people reading it. Like, I was just in the UK and had like so many people come up to my book signings. I'm like, this is nuts. Like, I've been at concerts and had people pull out my book from their bag and be like, can you sign this? Like, it's so cool, because the whole reason I wrote this is I wish that I had been handed this book when I got my diagnosis, and I wish my mum had been handed it, because maybe she wouldn't have cried when I got my diagnosis.
Well said, yeah. And this is not like a book flex for the both of us. This is Jenny, us being humble. I was next to a guy reading my book on the plane the other day, and you're like, well, that's pretty cool.
Was he like looking at the
exactly
book?
Looking at me, looking at the book, looking at me, looking at the book. He's like,
Wait a second.
Not looking as fit as you were on the cover, but it's going to be exactly right. Yeah.
The title is Different Not Less. Obviously, you put a lot of thought into that title. What was it, or who was it, not specifically, that made you at one point in your life feel less? What was that emotion that made you make that sort of the banner for the book?
Well, I guess the society that has constantly told me exactly that. And I know that sounds, quite down in the dumps, but for myself, for so many other neurodivergent, autistic people, so many other disabled people, period, we're told that we are less. And that's just simply not the case. Like the amount of autistic people, first of all, if you have a look at like literally anyone who has ever done anything cool as shit, I can guarantee you they're probably neurodivergent. Like, if you have a look at like the top people of any field, I promise you one of the top 5 is neurodivergent, because we're cool as shit and we can do cool as shit things when we're in our environments. It's an environment that refuses to support and accommodate disabilities that causes these things to happen, that causes us to feel less.
Yeah, people don't take the time to ask the questions about what you need from lived experience. People assume you can't do it. So it happens a lot, like with employment and that.
Yeah.
I once tried to hire an autistic person, didn't work. I was like, did you actually ask them what they can do? Because when asked in their environment, you can operate at a higher level,
Yeah.
more often than not. Do you find now in your different streams of your career, people are more understanding, accepting, and asking those questions, or do you still feel like people make too many assumptions?
There's definitely a lot of assumptions, but I also don't work with anyone anymore who refuses to accommodate for me. I've realised that I do hold value and that I'm not less. So I'm not going to work with people that refuse to see that side of it, which I am aware that I'm incredibly privileged to have that ability to do.
At the age of 22, so 3 years ago, you also found out you were ADHD.
Yes.
How does that, your normal has been your normal since you were born, right? Have you had conversations with other autistic people and gone and realised where ADHD affects you differently with your neurodivergence, if that makes sense? Do you understand where ADHD starts or does it just blend?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Like it's not like something happened and I suddenly became ADHD. Like, I've always been both. So it's a bit hard to kind of know what's the autism and what's the ADHD, because at the end of the day, it's all just Chloe,
Yeah.
And that's why I'm so adamant on the is autistic rather than has autism label, because it is my brain and I can't take my brain off at the end of the day like a coat. Like, it is all me. So the ADHD and the autism, I don't know which one starts where. Like, sometimes it sucks because, for example, like, autism means that I need to plan things and I feel like I can't handle anything unless everything is planned to a T. The ADHD means don't plan that. Throw it away.
I was going to ask it, like, two very different.
Do you know what? Here's all I can say on it. It's like I'm possessed with myself. Like,
That's good
That's
stuff.
funny. It's like you like both the angel and the devil on your shoulders.
I don't know which one's which, but like, I don't like. They're not good overlaps to have, dude, because the two of them are so opposite.
Do you like legit wake up where days you're more unorganised and days you are more organised, depending on which one takes over? It's so interesting.
I don't think so. It's more like I have to really make sure, like, I have to work with my OT, I have to work with my therapist, I have to work with my organisational things, like my calendars, and I've got apps that help me organise things. It's more so a matter of, like, do I have the executive functioning and the ability to focus and to create these routines, because I know it's going to help my mental health. And sometimes, usually when I'm in burnout, when I'm in overload and stuff, the ADHD is like, no, we're not going to have routines. Let's do nothing and just sit and think and overthink all day. So I don't know.
You've done lots of stuff, but one of the things you're most well known for is your acting career. When did you decide you want to be an actor? We'll get to the fame and glory in a minute, but go back to when you were young. When did you start your acting career, and why is it a passion you wanted to give it a crack?
I've always wanted to be an actor, but I was also selectively mute until I was 16. So my parents used to joke that unless I was going to be like a French mime, then it wasn't really in the cards.
Oh, you were mute
for
when
me.
you were 16?
Yeah.
Wait, can you go into that
Surprise!
And selectively mute.
Yeah, so I could speak to my parents, I could speak to my family, and I could speak when I felt forced to, but usually it was in very small sentences. It was also usually using quotes from movies. I usually didn't have my own words. It was usually coming from others. And this was mainly because I grew up believing that my voice wasn't important, and that if I did speak, then I was opening myself up to being bullied and to being hurt and to being ridiculed. So I taught myself not to speak because I realised that speaking just usually equaled more hurt and more pain.
Geez, I'm glad you decided to talk.
Well, look, now I've got enough words for all of bloody Australia, so I'm making up for lost
Plenty
time
to
now.
say.
So acting, when did you give it a crack?
So when I was a kid, I used to like direct plays and stuff for my family, and I'd be like, sit down, I have a play to show you. When I was playing with my toys, I never actually played with them. I was directing them. I was making up stories, and my sister would come play with me, and I'd be like, okay, you have to say this now. I would literally write up scripts for her to do. I used to do community theatre a lot as well, and I found that was the only time that I could actually speak and that I could actually feel like myself. Ironically, by pretending to be someone else, I actually was able to feel more like myself. Someone else had written the lines for me, someone else had told me what to think and how to feel. So I didn't have to overthink that. I didn't have to go, well, if I say this, what's going to happen next? Everything was already scripted for me. Every single aspect of it was scripted, which made it so much easier. Also, being an autistic person, I've masked my entire life as well. I've put on a face. I've pretended in order to exist. So I guess when I realised that I could play pretend as a job, I was like, I'm already doing this for free. Let's give it a go. But it's always been something I've been very, very, very passionate about.
It's definitely not about me, but I've been doing some acting, right? And I'm really interested in getting into it. You and I are going to co-star in something one day. We've already decided. We're going to write something together. But I think part of the reason why I'm kind of grasping it quicker is because I was acting for ages.
Yes.
Does that make sense? And it's so nice to hear you say that, because people go, you've never acted. I'm like, I actually acted for like 28 years.
I've acted my whole life.
I did, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's why, one, I'm loving it. Two, I really want to do it. But three, I'm like, wow, I'm actually like picking it up quickly because I've been doing this.
I'm good at it because I've had to do it.
I've never said that out loud. There you go. Do you believe that as well?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
100%. You know what? I reckon the majority of the industry is probably closeted, disabled / neurodivergent.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's like freeing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
100%.
it's really cool. Really cool.
100%.
You would.
By the way, I'm a really crap actor. Chloe's obviously way better, but I'm just trying. I didn't just compare myself to Chloe. I'm on starting my journey. Let's see how we go. Yeah.
Being back to baby Chloe dreaming and directing in your bedroom, you did say on your Instagram that you never knew such freedom. So you felt the freedom in your own room. When it came to the reality of Heartbreak, and knowing what
Heartbreak High,
acting is.
not getting your Heartbreak High.
Plug it correctly, please.
Yeah, Heartbreak High on
Heartbreak
Netflix. When it came to that, was it as freeing, was it as liberating as it was in the comfort of your own bedroom?
In some ways, definitely. I mean, obviously, we're working for Netflix now. It's not, Chloe working for Chloe in her bedroom with her toy ponies. Like, it's a much bigger kettle of fish. But the same, I guess, initial concept still definitely remains the same. Yeah.
So I hate the word overnight success because you're not, because you worked on it for ages. But Heartbreak High blew up
pretty quickly. Yeah.
Huge. Like from the moment we met in that lobby, the show came out.
So
5
true.
days later.
So true.
Right? Number one show globally, Netflix. And I was like, wow. Like that one is a legend, right? How did that affect you and your life? Did it change your own perception of yourself, your career, but also being autistic, you need your own space sometimes and you got stimmed a lot. I'm sure everyone now in the streets like, Chloe. And that can be a lot for you. Like, how did your world change?
It's pretty hectic because we had a lot of people who are well known in the industry, on the cast, on the set as crew members and stuff, and they all kind of forewarned us. They were like, are you guys ready for what's going to happen when this show drops? And, most of us have never really done anything big before, so we were like, it's not going to happen. We're Australian. No one cares about Australian productions. Like, we weren't expecting, we were expecting, hopefully this show goes well, but we weren't expecting to get noticed or anything. Literally the day after it came out, I went into Melbourne and I got mobbed to the point where police officers had to come. Like,
wow.
It was... Like, it's hectic.
Cool or scary for you?
Both.
Okay.
It's lovely. Like, obviously, it's the best case scenario. People, loving you and wanting to come up and stuff. Like, it's beautiful. It's such a beautiful experience. And growing up as a fangirl, like, as someone who feels myself and is connected to so many people that are in media, I'm like, I understand. So I want to give these people this experience because I'm like, if I saw Harry Styles on the street, I'd do the same thing. I'd freak out. I still freak out. I went to his concert last week and I cried the whole time. So in some ways it's beautiful, but in other ways it's definitely, it's a lot, especially when it is, quite an overnight thing, being able to go from going out and maybe getting recognized once a week to every time I leave the house having swarms. Like, it's hectic.
So with that overnight change of a public way, because you were talking about being organised, and do you have to change your well-loved schedules because of that? Has it changed your life in a transport sense or in a public sense? Do you have to do things differently that you were so comfortable with because of the schedule and routine? Yeah,
definitely. There's been a lot of, and I'm still working through it. It's still massive changes that I'm trying to figure out. But yeah, there's definitely the change first of all, the change because of naturally what's happened in my life and the fact that the show has gotten so much success and I am getting recognised in public now. That's already been a change. And then there's a secondary change on top of that of, okay, how am I going to look after and protect and conserve my mental health and my well-being on top of that? So there's definitely a lot of changes, going through it at the same time.
How do you go explaining your accessibility and inclusion needs on set? So do you upfront say, like, you might be having a bad day. Does crew understand that? I work on film sets and sport and it's all like, no, you're doing it now. Like, otherwise piss off. So how's that for you? Because it's something you probably don't want to always have to do. And what's the understanding level back from people?
I think, first of all, I guess having a very vast majority of my media presence being disability rights issues and talking about very, very openly being autistic and also very openly about the negative sides of being autistic, I think it's impossible to hire me and not know, what you're in for. Which in turn has made a lot of people not hire me.
But there's a difference in hiring and knowing and then actually executing it.
Yes.
So when you're on set, we know. Actually, we've got an hour, Chloe, and we're dropping $100,000 on this, do it now. You know what I mean? There's a difference.
Yes,
how do you manage that?
So Heartbreak was incredible with, as soon as I got the job, I was having meetings with the directors, with the creators of the show, with the writers going, how can we best accommodate you? And as soon as I moved up to Sydney, I had meetings with every single one of them. Like, what can we do? What do you need from us? And I knew that I had the right to say, this is what I need. And they would be like, easy, great. And for me, that was having like a quiet area off set so I could get away from everything. It was, they put like velvet on like the clapperboard so it wasn't so loud.
Cool.
Yeah. And like, and things that like really did not cost them anything extra, didn't take any extra time. And the rest of the cast as well were saying that this accessibility and accommodation had actually had an overflow into them as well. Whereas it's not just disabled people who have visible needs are getting these accessibility things. It was the whole cast that were like, hey, do you guys need anything? Like accessibility helps everyone.
If you're listening in the media, TV, movie landscape, listen to this advice, because an investment in lived experience makes a better product.
Absolutely.
Why did that show go well? Because you're in it, right? They took the time to listen to you. You're a bloody good actor, and it dominated, right? That's why. So taking an extra meeting and putting little, and it's always less than you think. It's not like it's 19 sensory rooms.
Yes,
literally. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's like just listen and learn. That is an investment in the show. An investment in what you produce, which is really cool.
Absolutely.
Do you think, I mean, it's awesome to hear that Netflix and the Heartbreak High team were so accommodating, but the character that you play, Quinni, is also autistic. So there might have been a thing of them trying to learn a little bit more about the character as well. Is there, going forward, obviously we hope that the experience will be the same on future sets for you, but it makes sense that they would accommodate for an autistic character for a show in the same respects and try and, this could be really interesting when you bring this into the character. So it's the set's learning, but the next set, you might not be playing someone who's autistic or is autistic. So how do you think that journey into the next role that you do outside of Heartbreak High is going to be? Will you have a template of what you expect and you should expect?
I would say so. I think similar to what I was saying before, I wouldn't work with anyone who wasn't going to accommodate for what I need. It doesn't make for a good film set, and hiring someone that does have accessibility needs, first of all, it doesn't cost, like I said, it doesn't cost your production anything more. And autistic people are cool as hell. Like, so many autistic people are bloody brilliant actors. I'm an asset to your set. And if I need a timeout every so often, take it.
Yeah.
I love that. Also, just I hope we'll make that into a social, because the sass, I'm an asset. It was a little shoulder lean back. I'm an asset to this.
But it's so true. This is a new industry for me to be in. I'm doing a cameo in a movie next week, and they're freaking out about
pop up.
the accessibility stuff. And it's just chill. I'll just let you know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think it's because sport and that, maybe have had it for a while, but this is, I guess, they say it's new to the industry and diversity and whatever. It's been there forever, but people are just starting to talk about it more. And by you doing these kind of shows, it's obviously changed the landscape of your ability to speak about disability rights issues and what you do. How have you handled that? Because, I hate the word, but you and I are advocates. We don't mean to be. We're trying to be ourselves, right?
Yeah.
But that flows on from that. Everything you say is gospel. There's articles about it. What's that journey been like for you getting into that space?
I think overall the whole idea, first of all, the whole idea with Heartbreak and stuff is the amount of people that have seen themselves in both Quinni and myself and things that we weren't even, trying to, be inspiring with or anything, or, trying to show the autistic experience. There's scenes where I'm stimming, as in Chloe is stimming, and the camera happened to catch it, and people are like, oh my God, she's just like me. And I'm like, whoa, I wasn't even acting in that. I think being in this industry, first of all, this industry has such a long way to go in accessibility. I would say it's one of the worst in terms of
100%. Yeah.
how it accommodates people and how negative its stereotypes are. But just us existing in this industry is advocacy, we don't have to do anything. It's literally just having young people see disabled people in this industry means they can go, okay, well, if she can do it, or if he can do it, or if they can do it, I can too.
Well, you had 13-year-old Chloe in her bedroom in the country town without representation. There's a 13-year-old boy, girl, they in Western Australia who now have something to watch in a country town that they don't necessarily have in the community around them. So that representation is important.
Yeah. How do you, what's the importance level you put on playing roles where you're not autistic?
Oh, yeah.
So do you go to your casting agent and be like, no, I've done an autistic person role. Let me just be a murderer or a banker or whatever.
That'd be fun.
Well, let's write it together.
I'd love
A
to do a
murdering
thriller.
banker.
I
Seriously.
would, yes, so true.
But I'm serious. Why can't you just play any role? What's your journey on to that?
I
And
think-
influencing production about that as well.
Being typecast is obviously a very huge...
Typecast. That's
a huge, I think for most actors, I would say, but I just so happen to be an autistic person, but I'm also an actor.
Yeah.
And sometimes I play autistic people, which is brilliant because we need that. But we also need to see autistic people playing non-autistic people. We just need to see people being human beings. And yeah.
So, you think non-autistic people can play autistic people roles?
No.
You
But
don't?
I
I
think,
thought- yeah, good.
no, ew.
That's what I
no.
thought you said. I was like, what?
Shit, I would throw myself out the window.
That's because that's one of my desires to get into acting is like if I see one more able-bodied actor trying to
in a
push a wheelchair
yeah.
after an accident, it's
No,
like,
that
get
shit
stuff.
pisses
But Bryan
me off.
Cranston did a
Don't
great
name him.
job.
Don't frame him. Don't name him. There's also a movie about a young girl with autism who was made by someone, and I was like, that was the most mortifying thing I've ever seen because it was a non-autistic actor playing the role, and I was like, there's so many actors out there that could do
Was
it.
this a movie made by a certain singer?
You're correct. Yeah,
Oh, yes, I remember that one.
but it was like I was like gut wrenching for me to watch. Like I was devastated.
I couldn't watch it. I
I was
watched
upset. I was like visibly upset.
Yeah, and see, like, we need to get away from that shit because it's so clearly done by neurotypical people who want to use disabled people as a prop and as like this like little like, oh, like, look how much better my life is. And it's like, you know, we're the inspiration card or we're the comedy or we're, you know, oh, look how much better my life is. It's like, it's shit, dude. But with that being said, non-disabled people cannot play disabled people, but disabled people can play anyone.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, listen to that, everyone. See? Because you're like, well, if you can do it, why can't I do it? It's like, because we are disabled. We get to,
Yeah,
we get to choose
literally.
that.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
any minority group. It's like, oh, no, they say it. We can say it. It's like, no, you can't say it. Right?
No.
They get to pick what you say.
Yeah, and the other thing as well is my favorite thing is seeing disabled people playing like absolute assholes in movies. Like I love, like Sex Education did it really well where there was a guy who was in a wheelchair
Yeah.
and he was a dick.
He's a dick.
And I love that. And I love kind of changing that narrative. Whenever we see someone that is visibly disabled, it's kind of like, oh, we can't put them in a, you know, negative role because
Yeah, they can't be
people
the villain. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that shit, dude. More of that. But yeah, I would love to play some more. Like, I mean, I just want to act, dude, and whatever that is, fabulous.
Bring it on.
Yeah.
Find my agent.
Yeah.
Changing the tune a bit. In December last year, so only a couple of months ago, you got engaged.
I did.
You are to be married. Congratulations.
Like to chuck out a public apology for not making the engagement party. I was at the Australian Open.
Yeah, what the hell, man?
The Australian Open.
Not good
Bloody
enough.
blame Novak.
So yourself and your partner going to get married.
Yeah.
Question for you: how is your wedding going to be unique to your autistic self?
Ooh.
Are you going to have sensory rooms? Are you
Sensory
going to
wedding? What are you going to do?
Yeah.
True, Randy. Everyone's wearing headphones and everyone gets a fidget toy.
Ah,
It sounds funny, but we had Steph Agnew, who's blind, and she had everyone during her reception or her ceremony pull down
that a sensory wedding.
That's cool.
so everyone could
Touch,
experience
sound,
it.
smell.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, so like everyone experienced the ceremony as she did.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
really cool. That's
Cool.
such a cool concept. Yeah, we haven't really kind of like gone deeply into it, but I guess again, like I am a wholly autistic person, so anything I do is obviously going to be with that in mind. So I don't know what it's going
That's
to be,
true.
but I'm sure it's going to be a little funky.
He's got a great name as well. Your partner,
Yes.
Dylan. Great name. Tell us the journey of meeting Dill and what he means to you.
We met on Hinge, so
Like all good relationship.
Okay.
it was during COVID, and we were talking online for like 2 weeks because he lives on the other side of Melbourne. So like Melbourne had like the Ring of Steel, right, where you couldn't get past, and we were like, no, we just want to meet. Like it's been too long. So the only way that you could get past the Ring of Steel is if you had been in a long-term intimate relationship with someone. We'd never met before, and he was like, no, I'm just gonna do it. So went past the border, and they were like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm meeting my fiance. Okay. And
Nice.
then like he came down that night and practically didn't leave.
Very good.
Yeah, no, he's a lovely person.
That's great. I mean, that's just, I don't think people understand what the Ring of Steel in Melbourne was. For him to make that move, because it was
Gnarly.
scary.
That shit was like zombie apocalypse stuff, dude.
Yeah. So a highway that is 100 kilometres out of Melbourne came to a halt. There was army first, then there was police, and then there was like the big police.
Yeah,
And you have to go through 2 different checks because I grew up in Torquay. And so luckily my license said Torquay, so I went down to visit
Right,
my
yeah,
family.
cool.
But myself and my partner Emily were like shitting
It's
ourselves.
so scary. You know, like the Simpsons movie where they put like the dome over
Yeah.
Springfield? It's
Truman
literally
Show.
like that.
It was like that.
The Truman Show.
Yeah, people don't understand that was the Ring of Steel. You had to do like 2 license
Yeah,
and
it was
checks. So for him to
hectic.
make that commitment, you must have gone like, this guy is.
Do you want me to leave? This is the biggest, most Torquay long chat ever. Do you want me to get out of here? I don't care. Now, before we get to the bold and comfortable, I do want to ask you one more question because you've really been thrust into the spotlight, as of late, like with the acting and things like that, and that comes with the pressure, not just to perform as an actor, but also if you're going to speak out about disability stuff. How you cope with that? How do you go with it? Because it took me a while to fully be authentic about it, and it sucks sometimes. We don't want to speak out.
Yeah, you know what? And it's such a difficult thing to kind of be able to speak up about that and to be able to speak up about the pressure, because I am in such a privileged position. So many people wish they were in my position. So to go, oh, it's really hard sometimes. It really sucks getting noticed all the time. Like, oh my God, shut up. Like, how privileged can you sound? But it can be really difficult, especially when you are neurodivergent and have those extra sensory needs and stuff. It can be really difficult. And it's definitely something that I am still definitely trying to learn from and trying to figure out. And it's a lot of talks with my team and going, okay, we need to, work out something that actually works. It's a lot of talks with my therapist, which I think is so important. I think everyone should have a therapist. I
got one, by the way.
Period.
They're great.
As you should.
Yeah,
Kim.
just so everyone knows. Yeah.
And it's allowing myself to rely on my support network. I have a very beautiful family, a very beautiful support network, and it's allowing myself to actually rely on them and to go, you know what, I actually do need extra support right now, and allowing myself to accept that support.
Good. And you are allowed to be vulnerable and say, not say, why, poor me, I'm famous, but it can be hard sometimes, I think as soon as I never used to admit it. I'd be like, nah, but look, I'm Paralympian and got a sexology girlfriend and my life's great, so I can never talk about it. But I'm like, no, I'm struggling right now with this part, especially with Australian here. There were some gnarly parts where I was like, I don't want to advocate all the time. I just want to go to the pub.
I just want to chill.
Yeah, and I think people need to expect that as well. Exactly.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So the weight of expectation as well of other people, because they kind of hope that you would.
I find that a lot. I think especially, I don't know if you get the same thing, but especially as a disability rights advocate first, I guess, people see me as that. So people expect me to be constantly advocating for them and constantly advocating for them personally and specifically. It's a lot of weight to bear. It's a lot of weight to bear.
I love it because I'm pretty open and very vulnerable now when I'm struggling. People be like, they ask me questions expecting I know the answer, and I go, don't know. And like, what do you mean you don't know? You're like the disability guy. It's like, I genuinely don't know the answer to that. Like,
I'm not a psychologist.
You know what I mean? Or I'm like,
study this shit.
Can you explain to me what's going on with Chloe? I'm like, no, ask Chloe because I'm not autistic. You know what I mean? Like, but you think people know everything about all things autism, which is not true. You just know what you know, right? And you're just going to do the best to stick up for people as much as you can.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I do have one more question as well before the bowl of uncomfortable. Something I find interesting and would love to talk to you about is food. Now, you have some hypersensitivity to taste and texture.
Yes.
If I was to give you a roast, does the meat have to be separated from the potato sort of vibe?
I'm vegan, so.
Okay. Does the pumpkin have to be separated from the peas?
You're supposed to research our kitchen.
My apologies.
God.
Does it all have to be separate on the plate? Like how does that work with your hypersensitivity?
Oh yeah, if two things touch, it's contaminated.
Yeah,
now.
see?
Get away.
Okay. That's it.
What about when you go to a restaurant? It's all mixed.
Going to restaurants is the worst thing ever. And fancy restaurants are the worst. I hate fancy restaurants.
We were about to take you to
a nice lunch.
We're about to take you on a 5-star dining.
I'm buggering off.
Okay.
I hate that shit, dude.
That's good stuff. Yeah.
So what about for texture as well? Is that a mouthfeel thing? Like are there some things that, like for example, this is my texture thing, I can't swim in a chlorine pool and then touch a newspaper.
Nope, never mind. That's interesting. I was like,
We're
oh my
we're
God,
bonding.
we're like the same. And then I was like,
No.
that's a bit weird.
Thank you. Yeah, that's my texture thing. I can't.
That's
I can.
so fascinating.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of texture issues definitely, but sometimes usually I don't actually understand it. Like I also get really random food aversions, like to the point where I'll have a hyperfixation food, whereas I will literally eat this one food 3 meals a day for 3 months, and then suddenly the smell of it will make me actually projectile vomit, and I'll be like, can't touch this anymore. Don't eat. I don't want it near me.
That's so cool.
Something growing up with my mum's apricot chicken. I can't do that thing anymore.
And when oh my God, it's like losing a loved one. Like you literally,
you mourn the food.
I literally mourn it. I'm like, it happened to me a while ago with sushi. Sushi has always been my safe food, and I went and bought it a while ago, and I was like, no.
Yeah, so good. No. I would definitely not mourn the loss of apricot chicken.
It's a very 90s meal. I mean, there's
80s.
people who are
90s, man.
No, 90s meal.
When were you born?
1988. Okay, bowl of uncomfortable time. The bowl of uncomfortable is where people send us questions, knowing the guests that we have on the show. These are questions that maybe they wouldn't feel comfortable asking you in person, but hope that we feel comfortable asking you now that we've got a bit of rapport.
This person named themselves. I'll go first. Emily from Facebook. You have a very colourful and out there style, which I love in brackets, but people might deem that more as childish in addition to the fact that you're autistic. Do you find that people speak down to you like a child, especially at big media events or auditions?
Absolutely. I've also found find that a lot of people start speaking down to me after finding out I'm autistic. So I'll be spoken to like a normal 25-year-old, and then it'll come up in conversation that I'm autistic. They'll kind of pause. You can see the cogs turning in the brain and be like, wow, and look how far you've come. Like full baby talking. And obviously my aesthetic is very colourful, very 4-year-old that got into her mum's wardrobe. So, but I don't exist to make other people happy, dude. I exist to make myself happy. So.
Well, we're clipping that on socials, just that line right there. Love that.
Tag it.
An anonymous question comes from a fan of yours, though. Loved you in Heartbreak High and the relationship representation of wanting to feel and be sexual but not knowing how to represent that and have boundaries. How do you get comfortable telling your partner about wants, needs and no-goes? This question comes from a neurodiverse woman who is very loving but hates to be touched.
Ooh, I think having that conversation with your partner early on, and something that I've learned as well is if someone isn't going to respect your needs, you don't need them in your life anyway. So I think being open is the best thing for all parties involved, you know, and sometimes can be very uncomfortable. But I think having that conversation is so much better than not having that conversation and a couple of years later something happening and or realizing that the person isn't very kind and having wasted 2 years of your life. I think the most important thing is being open, and if they don't respect you or love you or appreciate and understand that decision that you've made, then that's on them and they can bugger off. You don't need that in your life.
That's beautiful. Yeah. What'd you do when you're on the dating apps? Because that can be a bit of a
You know what? I literally had it for one day.
And you met Dylan straight away?
Literally day one. I was like, because I was like, I don't want to do this Tinder shit. Like, I don't know, that's kind of weird. And then it was peak COVID. I was like, I have no friends. And then I was like, let's just shits and gigs. Let's see what happens. And met him, literally the first person I saw.
At Hinge, you found your new ambassador?
Yeah.
$500,000 minimum.
Yeah.
You can pay for the wedding. Oh my God. Done.
Hinge, at Hinge.
We'll add them right now.
You're listening? You found it.
There you go.
All right, you found it.
Stop the search. Yeah. Doesn't have to be an ex-bachelorette contestant.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Chloe Hayden, for coming on our show. Thank you to everyone who emailed through your requests. Please stop.
We didn't even get to some of this stuff. So, like the Rising Star of the Year Award, Marie Claire Australia. Actor Award winner. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my
Actor.
God. In the same category as
Who'd you beat?
Margot Robbie and Rebel Wilson. What the heck?
I did. Of course, I've seen you at the trophy.
Unbelievable. How did that make you feel? I was so excited. I shared on my Instagram straight away. I was like, not just because you won, but I was like, catch it, Margot, catch it. I was like, that is sick. That's got to make, think about 13-year-old
Did you hear
Chloe.
from Margot or Rebel?
No. I tripped over Rebel on the red carpet and I didn't realize it was her.
Hey.
And then looked behind and I was like,
Guess what? If they didn't know you before, they know you now because you beat them. I love it. Good job.
oh my God.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, so much to get through, but thank you for your time for what we have.
Chloe, I can talk to you all day. You're a weapon.
Yeah.
Cannot wait to see what you do next.
Thank
Please
you.
take me with you. Let's act together. Thank you.